Joining me now is Michigan Congressman Tom Barrett, who is now locked in a big race for re-election. Congressman, thanks so much for your patience and sticking with us. We appreciate your being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate your being here. We're going to get to your race in just a minute, but I just want to get your reaction to what we just heard from President Trump announcing that he's going to sign those 2 executive orders, which effectively are going to be trying to limit birthright citizenship. Do you think that they will withstand the undoubted legal tests that they will face?
Well, they certainly should, right? I can't speak to what a judge may or may not do, but I think that they absolutely should withstand the legal scrutiny. When you talk about obviously a problem that Americans can recognize of people who come into our country with the express and sole purpose of having a child here so that they can have an American citizen born in the United States when they have no real ties to the United States beyond coming here as a visitor, I think every American should stand up and say, yeah, that's an abuse of the immigration system. That's an abuse of our laws and the protections that we have, and we shouldn't allow that to continue. Certainly, that is something that I think we ought to all respect as we debate other immigration policy. I think that's one that we should clearly all agree on.
All right, well, let's get to your race. You will be facing William Lawrence, who won his primary on Tuesday. He is, of course, progressive. In a post on X, you said you won't underestimate him. I wonder, how do you see this race? What is your strategy for winning?
Well, my strategy is conveying to the voters the work that I've done for the last year and a half, serving in elected office as our representative in Congress, representing my family and the families across my district, and really pointing out the contrast between my record and my opponent's record. He's been a progressive socialist activist. I know in your segment before I came on, you were talking about how these Democrats are increasingly becoming further and further progressive to the left. Well, my opponent just yesterday in an interview admitted that he was still a card-carrying member of the Democratic Socialist Party of America until last month. So he hadn't even canceled his membership there until last month, and he couldn't disavow a single one of their positions and actually praised them for all of their positions that they hold. That means unlimited illegal immigration into our country, amnesty for every single person that is here, even those on the terror watch list, people who came over and have committed terrible and violent crimes against American citizens. They would all get amnesty under my opponent's plan. Every single facet of the Democratic Socialist platform is one that he fully embraces and fully endorses. He was a founding member of the Green New Deal Alliance in Michigan, which means all of our auto manufacturing jobs would be put in jeopardy. The 2 General Motors plants that are in our district, where men and women work hard every single day to produce vehicles that are putting people on the road and fueling our economy, would be put in jeopardy by the policies that he stands for. He would grant Medicare coverage to every single illegal immigrant in our country, putting our senior citizens' Medicare coverage at risk as well. And the list goes on from there. So there are a countless number of contrasts between myself and my opponent, and my job for the next 89 days is conveying that to the constituents in my district, earning their trust and earning their vote this November to go back to work for them for another 2 years.
Well, let me ask you, because I was able to interview Mr. Lawrence yesterday on this same program. He argued that his message does have some crossover appeal with Republican voters, particularly on the economy. Take a listen to a part of that conversation.
Saying no to AI data centers is an issue which is dramatically popular with Republicans and independent voters. Stopping these stupid wars. I mean, I talk to people every day who are Republican voters, and they say, I believe Trump when he said he wasn't going to start any more wars. And look at where we are now. An utter catastrophe in Iran that is causing gas and groceries to go through the roof. And Tom Barrett just voted to fund it.
What is your reaction?
Well, I would encourage my opponent to actually do some research, and perhaps you're aware, if you just Google Tom Barrett, Iran, you will see that I was one of 4 Republicans, one of the very first Republicans to break ranks and actually vote against, or vote rather in favor of, the War Powers resolution that was brought forward by the Democrats. I believe strongly that any combat authorization needs to originate and have authority from Congress. That is a position that I've held very sincerely. You know, while my opponent was trying to shut down auto manufacturing in Michigan through these Green New Deal scams, I was actually deployed in the military. I spent 22 years of my life serving in the military. He talks about war. I've actually seen war and the devastating effects that it has. I take that very seriously. And for him to characterize me as some warmonger is absolutely patently false. There are only 4 Republicans that stepped up to vote in favor of the War Powers Resolution to put, really into effect the congressional authority around the use of force, that when we're deciding to send men and women into combat, this is an issue that I take very, very seriously, and I think it has to have the highest and foremost level of constitutional scrutiny applied to it. My record on that is clear, and I welcome the debate from my opponent.
Well, let me follow up with you on that, because we have seen gas prices go up now above $4 a gallon in the wake of the war with Iran. Do you believe the president bears responsibility for those prices?
Well, I think certainly the war in Iran has led to higher fuel prices. That's not really in question. I think even the president acknowledged that in his remarks in the Oval Office today. So when you have geopolitical factors affecting things, that certainly brings about higher fuel prices. I mean, my opponent would ban gasoline engines, so let's start with that. But secondly, from there, if you look at what we've done aside from foreign policy, we've done everything we can to increase domestic energy production here in the United States so that we are less and less reliant upon foreign adversaries for the flow of energy that we rely on here in the United States. Now, oil is still a world commodity and will be, into the foreseeable future. But I think we have to also acknowledge that putting ourselves in the best position as a country so we're not held hostage by foreign adversaries is something that we should also work to do while we're figuring out our way through these foreign policy concerns that we have.
So, Congressman, you acknowledge that prices have gone up since the start of the war. Yesterday, President Trump said
prices, absolutely. I mean, I didn't think I'd ever taken a position that gas is cheaper today than it was before the war in Iran. That would be absurd.
Well, and President Trump yesterday said in an interview he thinks he should be given an A+ on the economy. What grade would you give him?
Well, I think if you look back at what we did through the working families tax cuts to bring about tax cuts for families, an increase in permanent child tax credit that is going to enhance that ability for working families across my district and across America, that's a very positive thing. No taxes on tips and gratuities for people who are working in the service industry, and no taxes on overtime for the people that I talked about that are working in the auto manufacturing space in my district, or the people that I visited last week in my district, paving roads through the infrastructure investment that we've made. Those are all very, very positive things. No taxes on Social Security for our senior citizens. So do you think
he deserves an A+, Congressman? What grade would you give him? I would say that we have
made serious improvement to our economy. We took over in a very, very challenged time. But look, I'm not going to pretend that the work is done. We've got a lot more ahead of us that we need to do. I wouldn't be running for re-election if I thought there was no work left to be done. I'm ready to get back to Washington and work hard and continue to push for the economic policies that are going to put every American in the best position possible. And I'm not going to, assign grades to myself or somebody else. I know what you're trying to do to wedge me in a pocket talking about that. What I'm talking about is the things that I voted for, the policies that I support, and the contrast with my opponent, and the economic absolute despair that would arise from his socialist policies that he's pushing for.
Congressman, President Trump says you have his complete and total endorsement. You appeared with him last month in Michigan. Do you want him to campaign with you from now until November?
I welcome and appreciate the president's endorsement. And, if you want to contrast that with the endorsement of my opponent with the Democratic Socialists of America and the platform that they stand for, then certainly that's a contrast I'm very comfortable taking on.
And do you welcome him out on the campaign trail with you?
Yeah, we just had him in my district last week, as you pointed out.
Okay. And I don't believe the DSA has actually endorsed your opponent. But let me ask you about something. He was a member
of their organization last week or 2 weeks ago. So
all right.
I guess he's endorsed them. I don't know. He's the one on the ballot.
All right. Let me ask you about another point that your opponent, William Lawrence, raises, the issue of data centers. As you well know, it's become a big issue in your district. Politico actually notes there are 6 data centers in your district and 6 more planned. Your opponent is calling for a federal moratorium on construction of these centers. Would you support a pause on these data centers?
Well, what I support is not making these decisions for data centers in Washington, D.C., because if you support a federal policy on local control of data centers, then you're opening up the door to allow Washington to force data centers into local communities that don't want and don't support them. That's absolutely something that I do not support. I respect local control. I respect the decision making of our local governments and our local constituents to make these decisions for themselves without the federal government coming in or without big corporations stepping in to force them into that decision. One thing I will point out to you, I was one of the Republicans when I was in the state legislature that voted against the corporate welfare incentive deals for these data centers going back to my very first term in the state legislature. This is, again, another point where I have credibility on the issue of not giving away corporate incentive in state and federal tax dollars to incentivize big corporations to come in and do this. I don't want to see the federal government forcing data centers in local communities. I want to see these local communities able to make this decision for themselves and be able to make a decision that works for them and for their community without the federal government telling them what they have to do.
All right, Congressman Barrett, thank you so very much for joining us. We will be watching your race very closely. Please stay safe out on the trail. Thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.